The great throne room of Drakmor Palace stretched out like a crystal cave. Light from 3 suns streamed through the tall windows, making rainbow patterns on the polished floor. At the center of it all sat Empress Hana in her hover chair, looking very small in the huge space. Today was her 847th birthday. The number felt heavy in her mind. She had lived through the rise and fall of many governments. She had seen stars born and planets die. She had commanded armies that shook the galaxy. But today, she sat alone. Her hover chair hummed softly as she moved it forward. The chair was a work of art made from rare metals and powered by a small fusion core. It could fly, had shields, and could even fight if needed. But to Hana, it was still just a wheelchair, a reminder of the day everything changed. The War of 7 Suns had ended 3 years ago. Hana had led the final battle herself, charging into enemy fire to protect her people. The plasma cannon blast that hit her ship saved millions of lives. It also shattered her spine and left her unable to walk. The doctors said she was lucky to be alive. Some days she was not sure they were right. Her dragon-born body was strong. She would live for thousands more years. Her mind was sharp. Her power was still real. But something had changed after the accident. The other rulers who used to visit her palace stopped coming. The nobles who once sought her advice now whispered about finding a new empress. Everyone treated her differently now. "Your Majesty," came a voice from the air. It was Aria, the palace computer system. "The birthday celebration is ready. The main hall has been prepared for your guests." Hana looked toward the grand dining hall. Tables covered in fine cloth held the best food in the galaxy. Expensive wines from distant worlds waited in crystal glasses. Musicians stood ready to play. Everything was perfect for a party. Everything except the guests. "How many have confirmed they will come?" Hana asked, though she already knew. "0 confirmed guests, Your Majesty. However, many sent gifts with their regrets." Regrets. Everyone had regrets. The president of the trade union was too busy with new contracts. The military council had urgent meetings. The other royal families had scheduling conflicts. All lies wrapped in polite words. Hana moved her chair to the big window that looked out over the palace grounds. Below, she could see the human workers finishing their jobs for the day. They maintained the defense systems that protected her world. Small figures in work clothes, they moved around the giant machines like ants around a hill. The humans had been working for the Empire for 5 years now. They were good at their jobs and never caused trouble. They fixed things that broke and improved things that worked. They did not bow as low as other species, but they did their work well. Hana found their directness refreshing after years of dealing with creatures who said one thing and meant another. She watched one human father pick up his small son from the daycare center near the work site. The child ran to his father with joy. The man lifted the boy and spun him around, both of them laughing. Such a simple moment, but it made something ache in Hana's chest. When was the last time someone had been truly happy to see her? Not because they wanted something or feared her power, but just because they cared about her. "Aria, cancel the musicians," Hana said quietly. "Your Majesty? Send them home. Pay them extra for their trouble. Cancel everything." "But Your Majesty, it is your birthday." Hana almost laughed, as if she could forget. 847 years of birthdays. Most of them had been filled with ceremony and politics. People had come to show respect or to gain favor. Very few had come just because they wanted to celebrate with her. She remembered her childhood birthdays on the Dragon homeworld. Her mother would make her favorite sweet bread. Her father would tell stories about the ancient dragon warriors. Her siblings would give her small gifts they had made themselves. Those birthdays had been about love, not politics. But her family was gone now. Her siblings had died in various wars over the centuries. Her parents had passed peacefully in their sleep, as dragons did when their time came. She was the last of her line, the final leaf on a dying tree. The hover chair carried her back to the throne. It was made from a single piece of crystal that had taken 50 years to grow. The seat was comfortable and heating elements kept her warm. But it was still just a throne. A chair for someone who ruled over others, but had no one to rule her own loneliness. Outside, the 3 suns were setting. The sky turned deep purple with streaks of gold. Night was coming to Drakmor, and with it, another birthday would end. Tomorrow would bring new problems to solve, new decisions to make, new responsibilities to carry. But tonight, she would sit in her palace and remember what it felt like to be alone. The great clock in the center of the palace began to chime. Each note echoed through the empty halls like a funeral bell. Hannah counted along, 1, 2, 3, up to 12. Midnight. Her birthday was officially over. She had spent it exactly as she had feared she would. Alone. The throne room felt even bigger now, and quieter. The rainbow lights from the windows had faded to soft gray. Even the hover chair seemed to hum more sadly. But in her private thoughts, Empress Hannah made herself a promise. Next year would be different. Next year, she would find a way to not be alone. She did not know how yet, but she would find a way. She had conquered worlds and commanded fleets. Surely she could conquer loneliness too. What she did not know was that the answer to her loneliness was already walking around outside her palace. A human mechanic and his young son were about to do something that would change not just her life, but the entire galaxy. Sometimes the most important changes come from the most unexpected places, and sometimes all it takes is someone brave enough to ask a simple question. Jinho wiped the sweat from his forehead as he finished checking the last defense platform. The work was hard, but he enjoyed it. There was something satisfying about taking broken things and making them work again. His hands were covered in grease, and his work clothes were dirty, but the platform hummed perfectly now. He was 34 years old and had been working in space for most of his adult life. His job was to keep the big machines running that protected Empress Hannah's world. It was important work, even if most people never thought about it. When the defense systems worked right, nobody noticed. When they broke down, everyone would know. Very quickly, "Dad," called a young voice from behind him. Jinho turned to see his son Daeho running toward him from the daycare center. The 8-year-old boy had his father's dark hair and bright eyes full of curiosity about everything around him. He wore a small work suit that matched his father's, complete with a tiny tool belt that held toy wrenches and screwdrivers. "How was your day, little mechanic?" Jinho asked, lifting his son up for a hug. "Good. Miss Kira taught us about the different planets in the Empire. Did you know some planets have purple grass, and some have 2 moons?" "I did know that. What else did you learn?" As they walked toward their small apartment near the work site, Daeho chattered about his day. He talked about his friends, his lessons, and the pictures he had drawn. Jinho listened carefully to every word. After his wife Mira had died in the mining accident 3 years ago, these conversations with his son had become the most important part of his day. Their apartment was small but comfortable. 2 rooms, a kitchen, and a view of the palace in the distance. Jinho had put up pictures that Daeho had drawn on the walls. They showed spaceships, aliens, and families holding hands under bright suns. The drawings made the plain walls feel like home. While Jinho cooked dinner, Daeho sat at his small desk doing homework. The boy was smart and worked hard in school. He wanted to be a mechanic like his father when he grew up. Sometimes he talked about being an engineer or maybe even a pilot. Jinho told him he could be anything he wanted to be. After dinner, Jinho was reviewing the day's work reports on his computer when something strange caught his attention. The energy readings from the palace showed much higher power usage than normal, but not for weapons or shields or anything dangerous. The extra power was going to the main hall and dining areas. "That's odd," he muttered, pulling up more detailed readings. "What's odd, Dad?" Daeho asked, looking up from his coloring book. The palace is using a lot of extra power tonight, like they're having a big party or something. Jinho checked the Seoul traffic control logs that tracked who came and went from the palace. As someone who maintained the defense systems, he had access to basic security information. What he saw made him frown. No ships had landed at the palace today, no vehicles had arrived, no guests were registered. The place was using enough power for a celebration with hundreds of people, but according to the logs, no one was there except the Empress and her staff. Maybe the Dragon Lady is having a party by herself, Daeho said. Jinho looked at his son with surprise. What made you think of that? I don't know. She always looks sad when I see her in the window. Like when Mom first went to the hospital and you tried to smile, but I could tell you were scared. Children saw things that adults often missed. Jinho thought about what his son had said. He had noticed the Empress in her window sometimes when he worked on the outer platforms. She did look lonely up there in that big palace. Curiosity got the better of him. He accessed the palace's public information system, something anyone could look at if they knew how to find it. Most of the information was basic stuff about palace history and official announcements. But buried in the data, he found something interesting. Today was Empress Hana's birthday. The most powerful person in 3-star systems was having a birthday party alone. Jinho had been alone after his wife died. He remembered those first few months when Daeho was at school and the apartment felt too quiet. He remembered eating dinner by himself and trying to pretend it was normal. He remembered his own birthday that first year, when he had tried to make it special for Daeho but had cried in the bathroom afterward. Being alone was hard for anyone. But being alone when you were supposed to be celebrating had to be even worse. Dad, you have that thinking face, Daeho observed. What thinking face? The one you get when you're about to do something that might get us in trouble. But you think, it's the right thing to do anyway. Jinho looked at his son with amazement. How did an 8-year-old get so wise? You know what, little man? You might be right. Are we going to help the Dragon Lady? Maybe. Would you want to? Daeho thought about this seriously, the way children do when adults ask them important questions. Is she mean? I don't think so. I think she's just sad and lonely. Then we should help her. When I'm sad, you always make me feel better. Jinho felt his heart swell with pride. His son had learned the most important lesson in life without even trying. When someone was hurting, you tried to help them feel better. It did not matter if they were powerful or famous or scary. It only mattered that they were hurting. What would we do? Jinho asked. We could go say happy birthday, and maybe we could stay with her so she's not alone. The idea was completely crazy. Normal people did not just walk up to an empress and ask to join her birthday party, especially not a human mechanic and his young son. There were rules about these things, protocols, security procedures. But sometimes rules mattered less than doing what was right. It might be dangerous, Jinho warned his son. Mom always said being brave doesn't mean you're not scared. It means you do the right thing even when you are scared. Jinho felt tears in his eyes. His wife would have been proud of their son. She had raised him to be kind and brave and to care about others. All right, Jinho said. Let's go wish the Empress a happy birthday. Daeho jumped up with excitement, then stopped. Should we bring a present? Jinho looked around their small apartment. They did not have much money for expensive gifts, but maybe that was not what mattered. I have an idea, he said. The main gate of Drakmor Palace was bigger than Jinho had expected. Made from polished black stone and metal that gleamed in the moonlight, it stood 30 feet tall with dragon symbols carved into every surface. Guard towers rose on either side, and Jinho could see the glow of weapon systems built into the walls. He held Daeho's hand as they walked up the wide path toward the gate. His son carried a folded piece of paper in his free hand, a birthday card he had quickly drawn with crayons. Jinho carried his toolkit in his other hand, hoping the small diagnostic device inside might be useful as a gift. Both of them wore their best clothes, which were still just clean work suits. They did not own fancy outfits or formal wear, but the clothes were neat and tidy, and that would have to be enough. "Dad, look how big it is," Diho whispered as they got closer to the gate. "I see it. You nervous?" "A little, but also excited." Two dragon guards stood at the gate. They were tall creatures with scales that looked like armor and eyes that glowed slightly in the dark. Their weapons were longer than Jinho was tall. As the human father and son approached, both guards moved to block their path. "State your business," said the guard on the left. His voice was deep and rough, like stones grinding together. Jinho took a breath and tried to keep his voice steady. "My name is Jinho. This is my son Daiho. We work here maintaining the defense systems." "We know who you are," said the second guard. "Why are you at the main gate after work hours?" This was it, the moment that would either get them arrested or change everything. Jinho looked down at his son, who gave him an encouraging nod. "We heard the Empress is celebrating alone today," Jinho said clearly. "My son and I would like to ask, may we stay?" The two guards looked at each other. Then they looked at the humans again. Then they looked at each other once more. One of them activated a communication device on his wrist. "Control, we have a situation at the main gate," the guard said. "What kind of situation?" came a voice from the device. "Two humans requesting permission to attend the Empress's birthday celebration." There was a long silence from the communication device. "Did you say, attend the birthday celebration?" "That is correct." Another silence. "Are they armed?" The guards looked at Jinho's toolkit and Daiho's crayon drawing. "One small maintenance kit and what appears to be a piece of artwork. Stand by." The guards kept watching Jinho and Daiho while they waited. The minutes felt very long. Daiho was not scared, though. He was looking at everything with interest: the carved dragons, the guard towers, the energy shields that shimmered almost invisibly in the air. "The dragons on the gate look friendly," Diho said to one of the guards. "Did someone who likes dragons make them?" The guard looked surprised by the question. "The Empress designed them herself many years ago. She's a good artist. I like to draw, too. Do you want to see my birthday card for her?" Before the guard could answer, the communication device crackled again. "Send them to Security Chief Talon for screening." Acknowledged. The main gate began to open with a sound like distant thunder. Beyond it, Jinho could see a courtyard paved, with smooth stones and filled with strange, beautiful plants that glowed softly in the darkness. "Follow the blue lights," one of the guards said, pointing to a path marked by small lamps. "Do not leave the designated route." "Thank you," Jinho said politely. As they walked through the gate, Daiho looked back and waved at the guards. One of them actually waved back. The path led them through gardens unlike anything on Earth. Trees with silver leaves rustled in the wind. Flowers that looked like tiny stars bloomed along the walkway. Water fountains carved from crystal played music as the water flowed through them. "This is like a fairy tale," Daiho said. "It really is." They reached another building where a new dragon waited for them. This one was smaller than the gate guards but looked more official. He wore a uniform with many medals and insignia. "I am Security Chief Talon," he said. "I need to ask you some questions." "Of course," Jinho replied. "Why, do you want to see the Empress?" "Because it's her birthday, and she's alone." "How do you know she is alone?" "The power readings show a celebration, but the traffic logs show no visitors." Chief Talon nodded slightly. He seemed impressed that Jinho had figured that out. "Are you working for any foreign governments?" "No, sir." "Do you have any weapons or recording devices?" "Just my diagnostic tools and my son's birthday card." "What do you hope to accomplish?" Jinho thought about how to answer that. We hope to make her feel less lonely. Chief Talon looked at them both for a long moment. Then he activated his own communication device. Your Majesty, I have the two humans here, a maintenance worker named Jinho and his 8-year-old son, Daeho. They appear to be genuine. They say they want to keep you company for your birthday. What do your scans show? Came the Empress's voice from the device. No weapons, no surveillance equipment, no signs of deception. The child is carrying what appears to be a hand-drawn birthday card. Another long pause. Your Majesty, Chief Talon said, this is the most unusual security situation I have encountered in 8 centuries, the Empress said. But I am curious. Send them to the throne room. Are you sure, Your Majesty? If they wanted to harm me, this would be the most elaborate and polite assassination attempt in galactic history. Chief Talon shook his head but smiled slightly. Follow me. As they walked through corridors filled with artwork and treasures, from across the galaxy, Jinho wondered what they were getting themselves into. But when he looked at his son's excited face, he knew they were doing the right thing. Sometimes the right thing was also the most impossible thing. They were about to meet the most powerful ruler in known space, a woman who commanded fleets and controlled the fate of billions of people, a dragon empress who could destroy planets with a word. And all they had to offer her was a crayon drawing and the simple desire to make sure she was not alone on her birthday. It would either be the greatest gift she had ever received or the last mistake they ever made. The throne room doors were as tall as buildings and covered in gold patterns that seemed to move in the light. As they opened, Jinho heard his son take a small breath of wonder. The room beyond was the most beautiful space either of them had ever seen. Crystal pillars reached up to a ceiling painted with scenes of dragons flying among stars. The floor was polished stone that reflected everything like still water. At the far end of the room, on a throne carved from a single massive gem, sat Empress Hana. She was smaller than Jinho had expected, but no less impressive. Her scales were deep blue-green like the ocean, and they caught the light as she moved. She wore robes of silver and gold, and a crown that looked like it was made from captured starlight. But what struck him most was her eyes. They were ancient and wise, but also tired and sad. Her hover chair was a marvel of technology. It looked more like a small throne than a wheelchair, with smooth curves and surfaces that gleamed like mirrors. But Jinho noticed the practical details, too. The medical monitoring systems, the life support connections, the way it was designed to give her dignity while meeting her needs. Approach, the Empress said. Her voice was strong and clear, filling the huge room easily. Jinho and Daeho walked forward across the long floor. Their footsteps echoed in the silence. When they reached a reasonable distance from the throne, Jinho stopped and bowed politely. Daeho copied his father, though he kept looking up at the Empress with curiosity rather than fear. Your Majesty, Jinho said, thank you for agreeing to see us. I confess I am curious about this unprecedented visit, the Empress replied. Security Chief Talon tells me you believe it is my birthday and that I am celebrating alone. Yes, Your Majesty, we thought perhaps you might like some company. Empress Hana studied them both carefully. Her gaze moved from Jinho's honest face to Daeho's bright eyes to the crayon drawing clutched in the boy's small hand. Are you not afraid of me? She asked. Should we be? Daeho spoke up before his father could answer. The question seemed to surprise her. Most beings find me intimidating. You seem nice to me, Daeho said. And Dad says people who are mean to others are usually just sad inside. Your father is a wise man. What is your name, young human? Daeho, and my dad is Jinho. We fix the machines that protect your planet. I see. And what brings you to my palace tonight? Daeho looked at his father, who nodded encouragingly. We found out it was your birthday and you didn't have anybody to celebrate with. Deho said. That made us sad because birthdays should be happy, so we came to ask if we could stay and celebrate with you. For a moment, the great throne room was completely silent. Then something unexpected happened. Empress Hana began to laugh. Not a cold or cruel laugh, but genuine amusement mixed with something that might have been joy. In 847 years of life, she said, no one has ever made such a request. You wish to attend my birthday celebration? If that's okay, Deho said. We brought presents. Presents? Deho stepped forward and held out his folded paper. I made you a birthday card. Empress Hana leaned forward in her chair to accept the drawing. She unfolded it carefully, and her expression changed as she looked at it. The picture showed stick figures holding hands under a bright yellow sun. One figure was much taller than the others and wore what looked like a crown. At the bottom, in careful child handwriting, it said, Happy Birthday, with several hearts drawn around the words. This is very beautiful, the Empress said quietly. Thank you. The tall one is you, Deho explained. And those are me and Dad. We're all holding hands because that's what friends do. I see that. It is a wonderful picture. Jinho stepped forward and opened his toolkit. I don't have much to offer, Your Majesty, but I noticed your chair might benefit from this diagnostic tool. It can help optimize the power systems and maybe make the ride smoother. He held out a small device about the size of his palm. It was not expensive or fancy, but it was well made and useful. Empress Hana accepted the tool and examined it. This is very thoughtful. I appreciate practical gifts. Dad makes broken things work again, Deho said proudly. He's really good at it. I can see that. The Empress looked at both of them with something like wonder. I must ask you something. Why are you not afraid of me? My own nobles fear me. Other rulers across the galaxy avoid me. Yet you, a maintenance worker and a child, come to my palace with birthday cards and gifts as if I were your neighbor. Jinho thought about how to answer. Your Majesty, I lost my wife 3 years ago. After she died, I spent a lot of time alone while Deho was at school. I know what loneliness feels like. Nobody should have to be alone on their birthday, no matter who they are. And, Deho added, you have a wheelchair like my friend Minho at school. He got hurt in the same accident that killed my mom. But Minho says wheelchairs aren't prisons. They're freedom machines. They let you go places you couldn't go without them. The words hit Empress Hana like a physical blow. For 3 years, she had thought of her hover chair as a symbol of everything she had lost. But this small human child saw it differently. He saw it as something that gave her freedom rather than something that took it away. Your friend Minho sounds very wise, she said, her voice softer than before. He is. He's also really good at racing his wheelchair. Can your chair go fast? Very fast, the Empress said, and for the first time in years she smiled when talking about her chair. That's so cool. Maybe you could race sometime. The conversation was nothing like the formal diplomatic meetings Empress Hana was used to. There were no careful words or hidden meanings. No one was trying to gain advantage or curry favor. These two humans were simply talking to her like she was a person rather than a title. You know, she said thoughtfully, I believe I would like that very much. But first, since you have come to celebrate my birthday, perhaps you would like to see the feast that has been prepared. There's food? Deho asked, with the enthusiasm only children can show for unexpected meals. Oh yes, quite a lot of food. More than one person could possibly eat alone. Then it's a good thing we're here, Jinho said with a smile, as Empress Hana led them toward the dining hall. She realized something remarkable was happening. For the first time in 3 years, she was genuinely looking forward to something. These two unlikely visitors had given her the most precious gift of all, the gift of being seen as a person rather than just a powerful ruler. Her birthday celebration was finally about to begin. The dining hall was even more magnificent than the throne room. A table longer than a spacecraft stretched down the center, covered with foods from dozens of worlds. Crystal glasses caught the light from floating lamps overhead. Golden plates and silver utensils gleamed like treasure. But what made it special was not the luxury. It was the fact that for the first time in years, Empress Hana was not eating alone. Daeho sat on a cushioned chair that had been brought for him so he could reach the table properly. His eyes were wide as he looked at all the strange and wonderful foods. There were fruits that glowed softly, soups that changed color as they cooled, and bread that looked like it was made from spun gold. "What's that one?" he asked, pointing to a dish that seemed to move by itself. "Dancing noodles from the spiral nebula," Empress Hana explained. "They continue to move even after they're cooked. It's perfectly safe. They're just showing off." "Can I try some?" "Of course. Try anything you like." Jinho watched his son's excitement with a smile, but he was more interested in watching the Empress. With each passing minute, she seemed to become more relaxed. Her formal posture softened. Her careful royal speech became more natural. She was becoming less of an empress and more of a person. "Your Majesty," Jinho said as they ate, "may I ask you something? Please call me Hana, and yes, you may ask. What was it like growing up as a dragon princess?" Hana paused with her fork halfway to her mouth. It had been centuries since anyone had asked her about her childhood. Most people only wanted to know about her wars and conquests. "It was both wonderful and difficult," she said thoughtfully. "I had everything I could want. The best teachers, beautiful palaces, servants to meet my every need. But I also had enormous pressure to be perfect, to never show weakness, to always think of the empire first and myself second." "That sounds lonely," Daeho said. "It was, sometimes. I had siblings, but we were often competing against each other for our parents' approval. I had friends, but I was never sure if they liked me or just my title." "I'm glad I'm not a prince," Daeho said. "It sounds hard." Hana laughed. "It can be. What do you want to be when you grow up?" "A mechanic like my dad, or maybe an engineer or a pilot. Dad says I can be anything I want." "Your father is right. What do you like about fixing things?" Daeho thought seriously about this question while he chewed a piece of the glowing fruit. "When something is broken, it's sad. But when you fix it, you make it happy again, and then it can do its job and help people." The simple wisdom of the child's words struck Hana deeply. She had spent her life breaking things, enemy ships, opposing armies, rebellions against her rule. But this small human found joy in fixing things, in making them whole again. "That's a beautiful way to think about it," she said. "Dad taught me that. He fixes things, but he also fixed me when I was sad about Mom dying." Jinho felt his throat tighten. His son had such a big heart and saw the world in ways that adults often forgot how to see. "Tell me about your mother," Hana said gently. "She was really nice," Daeho said. "She always sang when she cooked dinner, and she gave the best hugs. She died in an accident at the mining station where she worked. But Dad says she's still with us in here." He pointed to his chest. "Your father is very wise. I lost my parents too many years ago. The sadness never completely goes away, but it does get easier to carry." "Do you miss them?" "Every day." "Me too. But Dad says missing someone means you love them a lot, so missing them is actually a good thing." Hana looked at Jinho with new respect. This human had raised his son to find hope and meaning even in loss. It was a kind of strength she had never learned. "Jinho," she said, "how do you do it? How do you stay positive when you've lost so much?" Jinho set down his fork and considered the question. "I don't think I'm naturally positive, Your Majesty." Hana: "I think I just learned that Daeho needed me to be strong, so I had to figure out how to be strong." And I realized that being strong doesn't mean not feeling sad. It means feeling sad but still getting up every day and taking care of the people who need you. But surely you get angry sometimes. At the universe, at fate, at the unfairness of losing someone you love. Oh, I do. I've been furious at the cosmos more times than I can count. But anger is like a tool. It can help you tear down things that need to be destroyed, but you can't build anything new with it. To build something better, you need hope and love. Hana stared at him. In all her centuries of life, through all her wars and victories and defeats, no one had ever explained strength to her in such simple, clear terms. Is that why humans are so... She searched for the right word. Persistent? You refuse to give up even when situations seem hopeless. Maybe. We're not the strongest species or the smartest or the most advanced, but we're stubborn about caring for each other, even when it doesn't make logical sense. Like coming to visit an empress you've never met just because she's alone on her birthday? Exactly like that. Daeho had been following the conversation with interest. Hana, he said, using her name naturally, are you lonely a lot? The directness of the question caught her off guard. Yes, I am. Why don't you make friends? It's complicated when you're an empress. People want things from you, or they're afraid of you, or they think being your friend will give them power. But what if you just made friends with regular people, like us? I never thought of that. Regular people are the best friends, Daeho said confidently. They don't want anything except to have fun and be nice to each other. As the evening continued, Hana found herself sharing stories she had never told anyone. Stories about her fears, her dreams, her loneliness, and her hopes. Jinho listened without judgment, offering insights from his own experience of loss and recovery. Daeho asked questions that cut straight to the heart of things, the way children always do. For the first time in decades, Empress Hana felt like she was having a real conversation with real friends, not subjects or allies or enemies, but simply people who cared about her as a person. And she began to understand why humans had become so valued throughout the galaxy, despite being newcomers to interstellar civilization. They had something that older, more advanced species had lost or never learned, the ability to see past power and status to the person underneath. It was, she realized, a kind of magic more powerful than any weapon. 1 year later, the throne room of Drakmor Palace looked very different. The formal, cold atmosphere had been replaced with warmth and life. Children's drawings hung alongside priceless artwork. Comfortable chairs were scattered around for visitors. Plants from Daeho's school science project grew in crystal pots near the windows. Empress Hana sat in her hover chair at the center of it all, but she was not alone. Diplomats from across the galaxy filled the room, but these were not the old kind of political visitors. These were people who had come because they genuinely wanted to celebrate her birthday. The change had started slowly after that first night, with Jinho and Daeho. Word had spread through the human community about the Empress who welcomed a mechanic and his son to her birthday party. Other humans had begun to reach out, not with formal requests or business proposals, but with simple offers of friendship. A human teacher had invited her to speak to her students about dragon history. A human chef had offered to teach her how to cook simple meals for herself. A human artist had asked if he could paint her portrait, not as a fearsome ruler, but as a person. Each interaction had been like a small light in the darkness of her isolation, and other species had noticed. "Your Majesty," said Ambassador Chris from the Centauri Federation, "this new approach to governance is remarkable. Crime rates in your territory have dropped by 60%. Trade agreements are being honored without enforcement. Your own dragon nobles speak of you with respect rather than fear." Hana smiled. "I learned something important this year. People follow leaders they trust more willingly than leaders they fear. But how do you maintain authority without intimidation? Before Hana could answer, Deho came running into the throne room. Now, 9 years old, he had grown taller, but was still the same bright, fearless child who had first walked through her doors. "Hana, look what I made in art class!" He held up a clay sculpture of a dragon that looked remarkably like her. "That's beautiful, Deho. Is that supposed to be me?" "Yep. Mrs. Chen said we should make something that represents friendship, so I made you because you're my best grown-up friend." The ambassador stared in amazement as the most powerful ruler in 3 star systems carefully examined a 9-year-old's art project with genuine interest and pride. "This is how," Hana said to the ambassador. "When people see you as a person first and a ruler second, they want to help you succeed rather than waiting for you to fail." Jinho appeared in the doorway, wearing his formal dress uniform. Over the past year, he had been promoted to Chief of Maintenance and Morale, a position that had not existed before but had somehow become essential to the Empire's operation. His job was part engineering, part counseling, and part making sure that everyone in the Empire felt heard and valued. "Sorry I'm late," he said. "I was helping the Dragon Nobles set up their presentation." "Presentation?" Hana asked. "It's a surprise for your birthday. But first, we have some other guests who want to see you." A group of children from the local school entered the throne room, led by their teacher. They carried handmade gifts and sang a birthday song in 3 different languages. Behind them came workers from the shipyard, artists from the cultural district, and families from across the planet. But the most surprising guests were the dragon nobles themselves. Lords and ladies who had once whispered about replacing her now entered carrying a banner they had painted themselves. It read, "Happy birthday to our beloved Empress," in flowing dragon script. Lord Kion, the oldest and most traditional of the nobles, stepped forward. "Your Majesty, we owe you an apology. We thought your injury made you weak. We were wrong. This past year has shown us that your greatest strength was never your ability to walk or fight. It was your ability to inspire others to be their best selves. We have prepared something for you," added Lady Sora, "a new law for the Empire." She handed Hana a scroll written on fine parchment. As Hana read it, her eyes widened with surprise. "The Compassion Decree," she read aloud. "Let it be known throughout the Drakmor Empire that strength shall be measured not by the fear one inspires, but by the hope one creates. That leadership shall be judged not by the armies one commands, but by the trust one earns. That power shall be used not to dominate others, but to lift them up." "We wrote it together," Lord Kion explained. "All of us. We want to make sure that this new way of ruling continues long after, well, for many generations to come." Hana felt tears in her eyes. For the first time in her long life, she was speechless. "And there's more," Deho said, bouncing with excitement. "Tell her about the best part." "The best part," Jinho said with a smile, "is that copies of this decree are being sent to governments across the galaxy. Other rulers want to learn from what we've accomplished here. 3-star systems have already asked for human advisors to help them build better relationships with their people," added Ambassador Chris. "They call it the Drakmor model." The Drakmor model? A government based on earned loyalty rather than imposed fear, on connection rather than domination, on the idea that even the most powerful person in the galaxy can learn from a mechanic and his son. As the celebration continued around her, Empress Hana reflected on the incredible journey of the past year. She had started as a lonely ruler, in a beautiful prison, convinced that her disability and isolation were signs of weakness. But a simple act of human kindness had changed everything. She had learned that true strength came not from being invulnerable, but from being open to connection with others. That real power came not from making people fear you, but from inspiring them to trust you. That the greatest gift a leader could give was not victory in battle, but hope for a better future. "Hana," Deho said, tugging on her sleeve, "are you happy?" She looked around the room at all the people who had come, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. Friends who cared about her not for what she could do for them, but simply for who she was. "Yes, Daeho," she said, lifting him up to sit on the arm of her hover chair. "I am very happy." Good, because birthdays should always be happy. As the party continued into the night with music and laughter and joy filling every corner of the great palace, Empress Hana understood that she had finally found what she had been searching for all her life. She had found her family. Not a family of blood or politics or convenience, but a family of choice. People who had seen her at her loneliest and most vulnerable and had decided to stay anyway. And in learning to accept their friendship, she had not only saved herself from a lifetime of isolation, she had changed the way an entire galaxy thought about leadership and power. Sometimes the most revolutionary act is simply asking someone if they want to be your friend. And sometimes the greatest empire is built not on conquest, but on compassion.